Steven, my chair won't stop moving. It's like I'm sitting here
and
we
used to have sandbags for that chair. Do you still have them?
Did we do sandbags on this chair?
We used to. When we didn't, when we used to use the Z6s to film you at your desk, just because we had the focus locked at like 1.4 or something. But now with the R5, you don't have to worry if you lean in or lean back or whatever. It
is really helpful to have that, but it is a pain in the ass to slide. I was just sliding here. But anyway, right before we started, like 10 o'clock, I get a call from my dad, and it's like, I'm going to need you to come here because I have to... I have an assignment for my school because he's taking a class, right? He's in college. He's going to community college
I would
for
love
one
to
class
see that.
right now.
Is he in person or online?
In person. He's going for modern art history.
Nice.
Right? Because he likes art and he's been collecting stuff and he wants to learn more about it. So he's learning about all the different periods of time, the periods of art, and he's got an assignment and he has to put it in their community forum or whatever it is. So they have a dashboard and stuff. And he's like, I have to upload this picture and I have it. I took a picture on my phone of the screen.
Jared, do you know how to upload photos to the interwebs?
And I'm going to need you to come here sometime over the weekend because you need to show me how to do this.
Does he know how to airdrop?
Like, no. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Dad, I don't need to. He's like, sometime over the weekend, I have to do this for my assignment. I'm like, can we just...
I'm not asking, Jared, I'm telling.
I'm like, we can go on Zoom. Now, the problem here... Now, remember...
So wait, you think he knows how to go on Zoom?
We've already set this up. It's taken... We've already set it up where We've already set it up where he had to approve things. I had to argue with him the first time. I'm like, Dad, click this button. Now you got to go into security. I don't want to bother with this. I'm like, Dad, we're going to have to do it at some point. Right? So now he can give me his screen. He can share his screen and I can take control of the screen. Like share my computer like back in the day.
Does Zoom actually allow you to control his screen?
Yes, it does because I pay for Zoom. So I believe the professional allows me, I can control his screen.
That's cool.
So I can show him the process. Now where I screwed up is that I didn't hit record. And do a screen flow so we could see the my teaching of my dad, which is abrasive, and him getting upset and saying, I don't get it, a bunch. So I'm going through the whole process, and he's like, I have the picture. It says it's on my desktop, but when I do this and this, I'm like, I'm like, Dad, you have no picture on your desktop. It's in my email. It's in my email. How do I drag it from my AOL email over to here? I'm like, well, one, I've said, stop using AOL and use your Gmail because AOL is a fucking joke at this point.
I didn't think it still existed.
Well, even our payroll company that we use so that you can get paid and Dan can sometimes get paid and I get paid, it says in the bottom of their email, it has a disclaimer. Emails coming from AOL will not ever get through anymore or something for security purposes.
Wow.
So they've totally just said no AOL at all.
I use AOL as like my spam email. Like I don't actually have an AOL account. I'll put
for your OnlyFans.
Bob at AOL.com, onlyfans.com. Let's sign up. No.
So anyway, I'm walking through the process and now I'm using the screen and I'm showing him. I'm like, well, you click insert. And I'm like, so then I'm showing him that so what he did is he took a picture of his screen of the picture that he needs to write an article about.
A screenshot of the screen that has the pictures, what you're saying?
He took a picture with his phone of the screen. That's good. That's good thinking. Yeah. And he emailed it to himself. Okay, good. But he couldn't figure out how to get it out of the email and into the forum.
All right, he's halfway there.
The problem was he thinks that he can just go to AOL and just like drag whatever it is into the other website. But he's like, whenever I do that, the website disappears. I'm like, that's because you're clicking on another link. Anyway, I'm like, so what we need to do is we need to download this photo. Okay, there it is. I'm going to drag it to the desktop. Then we can insert this from the desktop. But I also saw that it gave an option for a URL. So now I'm showing him how you go to Google, you type in the name of the image, you can right click, copy link, insert the link, so that it propagates the photo. And I went through this whole process. Then there's more. Then he has to write something. So I'm like, you should be doing this in I'm like, you should be doing this in Pages, because you shouldn't just type it in the website, because what's going to happen is somehow it's going to get deleted and it's not going to autosave, and you're going to get to the end and you're going to get pissed off, because this is
Power
just
goes
what
out
happens.
on the last paragraph.
Right. So I open up Pages. I put a folder on the desktop called Pages so that we can save stuff in there. I open up a new page document. I save it, the title of what he needs, and I start typing to show him what he needs to do. Then I'm like, well, he's like, well, how do I get this text in there? I'm like, Command A, Command C, then Command V in. And he's writing down all these quick commands. So I finally show him up top under File. I'm like, do you see how it has the grade stuff on the side?
The shortcut, yeah.
The shortcuts. He's like, oh, that's what all that is. I'm like, yeah, they're shortcuts.
I do think shortcuts are tough for older people to comprehend. It's a lot easier just being like, right click, paste, or, copy.
Well, so when I first encountered Command V, which made no sense for paste, and Command C and Command A was in 7th grade, so it would have been about like 95, 94. We just got in junior high school, we just got compact computer 286s that I don't even know if they ran Windows. They may have been DOS. I don't know. But we had a typing program, and we were learning Command V, Command C. Like, that's what they were teaching us. We didn't
I'm surprised.
Right clicking didn't exist yet.
Huh.
Right. So I remember being at my aunt's house, my uncle's house, and they just got this new thing called Windows. I didn't know what the hell that meant. Like it was called Windows. I'm like, oh, look, there's Windows. You could look through them. I don't know. But anyway, I helped him. So anyway, we learned in junior high school, started that process. So I can understand how it can be bad. Then I showed him how to do it. I did a screen grab. I hit Command Shift 4, and he starts laughing. Yeah, I should have recorded this and then posted it on YouTube, because it probably would have been a viral moment, and it would have been
millions
funny.
of views, biggest video ever for Frodo's photo.
Biggest video ever. And we're like, really? This is what we need to be doing on the internet?
Goes viral on TikTok.
Welcome to RAWtalk episode number 16, where we talk raw about whatever the hell we want to talk about. Sometimes we talk about the things during the week that are newsworthy, some different things that come out from time to time, and we talk about them and our thoughts. But this is where we go deeper, and we like to put these out every Friday. So if you haven't checked out RAWtalk episodes 1 through 15, which are the reboot, or if you really want to go back in time, we're talking 7 years or so, or 8 years, you can hit oldest first.
Hundreds of episodes.
There's hundreds and hundreds of things. There's like
the news section might be a little outdated.
Well, yes, those are outdated. But even if you want to go back in the day to listen, they were different. They was totally different. But this is what we're enjoying. We're enjoying doing this type of podcast. Someone wanted me to tell you that you failed to read their Apple comment, that you got to everybody else, and then you stopped right before you got to theirs, and they were very upset. So that's what they wanted me to tell you.
Well, who was it? Are you going to read
it? I don't know. No, I don't know who it was. I get these text messages on the text line 313-710-9729, which I still need to give you access to.
Yes, every week.
I can give you access to it.
I will say it's weird to read the Apple reviews on desktop, because the way it's in order, it's not left. It's kind of almost scattered. Like, it's not really in order. So I could see missing one or two. Yeah, for sure.
It's possible, Stephen. It's unfortunate that you failed this listener of ours who was very, very upset that you fucking failed him.
I
just said the F word. So,
did your dad ever finish the project?
Well, he's working on it right now. It's due Monday.
Can't you take a class, pay for it, and opt out of taking the assignments? Like, just pretty much show up and learn?
Well, so he doesn't have to pay for class. He doesn't have to pay for class anyway, because he pays taxes in the in that community.
This is community college?
So it's community, and he's a senior, so he can go to these classes.
That's cool.
And I think he took one just to take it and see if he liked it. And they're going to have a section on photography on something, I think.
I can't wait until he's like, Jared, I learned something new today. Do you know there's something called aperture and exposure triangle?
It's not learning photography. It's not learning actual photography. It's learning about how photography and art,
like the art of photography. Ted Forbes.
Ted Forbes. So I said, Dad, why don't you ask your teacher if they need a speaker? I will come into class and I'll speak. I'll be like, yeah, reversal of roles here, Dad.
You're Jared Polin's father? I saw him on the Local News 9.
Local News 9, and not the snacks.
Jared Polin, not the snacks.
Jared Polin is a very well-known photographer from the YouTube. He's a YouTube photographer, meaning he takes pictures of YouTube screens. So anyway, he's taking the class. He'd like to take, I encourage him to do multiple days a week, and maybe he will. Just find interesting things. Now, when it comes to taking tests, and he's got a quiz coming up, and when it comes to typing, it might take him a while to type. He is a hunt and pecker.
Does he type like Dan? One key
He's
at a time?
He's a hunt and pecker. Yes, that's what hunting and pecking means.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, hunting and pecking. You hunt
it makes sense, yeah.
and peck.
Yep.
That's the old deal. Punch the keys, dog. You remember that?
No, what's that?
That was my Sean Connery impersonation from Finding Forrester, one of the greatest movies ever.
Yeah.
You're the man now, dog.
Trebek? I'll take the rapist for $800.
I'll take the rapist.
That's therapist.
Or something in my ass. Those things are hilarious.
What's he always talking about his mom,
your mom,
too? Trebek's mom.
Alex.
So good.
You're the man now, dog. I think that's a pretty good Sean Connery, right?
That is a pretty good, yeah, that is. It's an SNL Sean Connery impression. I wouldn't say the real Sean Connery, but it's very SNL-like.
Here, let's pull up some Sean Connery.
Here we go.
We're going down the rabbit hole. Sean Connery famous lines. Let's see what we've got here. Sean Connery.
Welcome
quotes,
to The Rock.
40 best Sean Connery quotes from the James Bond actor. I don't know. Popular quote. Oh God, it's one of these terrible websites.
See, I grew up with the old Sean Connery. You know, I was obviously post Bond and all of that. I was more like the Rock era and Finding Forrester and all of that.
Let me see your pussy finger. Wait, is that wrong? How did it go?
I don't know. I didn't watch the old Bonds.
Let's see. If you're afraid
I
of
was a
getting
Pierce
a rotten
Brosnan
apple,
Bond guy. That's who I grew up. The GoldenEye, 007, all that.
I don't know. I'm getting a phone call.
Oh, I hope it's your dad.
Oh, I know what it is. It's the pickleball place. It's the pickleball place. So my brother and I signed up for pickleball.
Man, this RAWtalk is all over the place.
It is. But this is what RAWtalk is. We signed up for pickleball. There's a place to play, and it's like $150 for a membership. My brother thought the membership included some court time, and it doesn't. Every court time, so if you want to play for an hour, it's $40 to rent the court, but you have to be a member. And so I emailed them back after the membership, like I signed up. I'm like, it's kind of odd that you sign up for a membership and it doesn't maybe include 1 hour a month.
Simply
slot.
just gives you access, and that's it.
Allows us to come in, so I think that's why they're calling. And I did it in a semi-nice way. I didn't do it in a dickish way, but also I read their FAQ section, and in their FAQ sections it says gold members receive X amount of hours a month and a thing. And so I emailed them. I'm like, it says this in your comments in the FAQs. He's like, well, that was just a preliminary thing. I'm like, well, maybe you should delete that from your FAQs.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I read that in the first place. I signed up because my brother was signing up, and I figured he did all the work, and he misunderstood. And it's also 45 minutes away from me, so it's a little more difficult for me to go there. But everything that you do there, you got to pay for, which I understand.
Sounds
paying
like a
for
rich
food,
man's
paying
sport.
for drinks. In the area, so it's in Trenton. Ewing, Trenton, so it's not far from Princeton. So a lot of people that play there are in their 50s and higher. My brother and I just want to play singles. We just want to hit the fucking ball, right? We don't want to play the slow game that the old people are playing, and one day that will be us, but we want to actually hit the ball. Anyway, so that's why they were probably calling to talk, because I was just like, I'm kind of confused. Like, really, don't you think? I said I would pay, even if it was $250 a year, but that included 2 hours a month.
It should include something.
It should include something. It shouldn't just be $150 to have access to the courts. It's like I can come in and wave and watch people, but I can't play unless I spend more money.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have social options where you pay $15 and they have up to 16 players and they rotate through 2 hours. That's fine. Like, fine. You want to do like a social tournament, like something like that? I'm cool with that. But I really think that it's that whole, you want to feel like you're getting something when you pay $150 for a membership. Maybe even if it was 5 hours, then you could only use it 5 hours once a month, right? Whatever. So I guess I'm going to skip this Sean Connery reading. So I like women. I don't understand them, but I like them.
Now I don't feel like you sound like Sean Connery at all.
Shit. You're the man now, dog.
There you go.
Okay, there it is. You're the man now, dog. I like women. I don't understand them, but I like them. I am not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
I was going to say, you sound more like Nixon now or something.
Come on, man. That's malarkey. I'm Joe Biden.
Terrible impressionist.
Ah, shit. Good. I thought I closed the wrong thing. Okay, so anyway, we finished talking about my dad.
Speaking of your dad, by the way, is he one that will, like, instead of saving a photo, say off Facebook or, like, on a mobile app, he's like screenshotting it and then sending you the screenshot? That's always my favorite.
Well, he'll probably take a picture of it.
Well, I'm saying, like, if it's in his phone and he wants to, like, instead of saving the picture off Facebook and saving the actual file,
he doesn't even know how to do that.
He's just taking a screenshot.
He's not like your mom. He doesn't know how to do that.
My mom will do stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, no, he doesn't even do that.
Yep.
But I was trying to teach him. I should have recorded, screen flowed it, because it would have been funny, to put up. I'm sitting here trying to teach him how to copy, paste, and all this stuff. Anyway, let's talk about the Fuji discussion. I alluded to this in Photo News Fix that we were banned, and by we I mean me. Steven didn't get banned. They just they more care about. Well, I'm the guy they banned. Everybody likes Steven.
Your Frono's photo, yeah.
But I know that they banned us for a fact because they told me that. And
we didn't know right off the bat, right? It's just they kind of just stopped talking to us and giving us NDAs and all that. About new products.
In 2018 was an interesting time. Right? Well, it was an interesting time. We wanted to review Fuji stuff, and so we did the XH1. Which one was at the boxing?
That was the
XH1?
XT3 or 2. XT3 or 2, one of the two.
Which we actually liked and enjoyed shooting. Like what I recall, because I haven't watched that video in 5 years, but what I recall remembering, because I'm starting to have flashbacks in my brain, I recall remembering that I ended up taking a lot of pictures because it was just so much easier to take pictures with the mirrorless camera.
It was the XT2.
Because this was still a time I was using a DSLR. Right. Okay, XT2. So I recall that shooting the boxing. I'm like, this is amazing that you can do this. And I recall that being good. Now, we got good reviews on that, good comments on that. But fast forward a year later, what started to happen is there was someone in the industry who was a super Fuji liker and riled up commenters to go leave negative comments on our videos, which made us be like, you know what? Fuck it. We don't want to talk about Fuji if this is the shit we're going to get, because even though we would be positive about things, they would just pick one negative thing and harp on it.
Well, that's exactly that. I don't know if it was just that one particular person that opened the floodgates, but just the Fuji fanboys in general. If you say one negative thing, like you're saying, they will jump all over you. And, you could say 1,000 positive things, one bad thing, and they're like, no, you're wrong. It's the perfect camera, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And so what I ended up saying was about the 90 millimeter macro being super slow focusing.
And the autofocus in general, not just about the lenses as well.
Well, yeah, the autofocus was still a little laggy, but whatever. I did mention that the 90 macro felt a little slow. Some of these other lenses were really good, and we show it with the EVF recording. But then, of course, you're going to get the people be like, oh, the EVF recording is absolutely slowing down your focus.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, no, it's actually not.
Well, because we would try it with and without, and there was really no difference.
There was no difference.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what happened, but Fuji stopped giving us stuff. And finally, in I don't know if I have the email. I think I have an email from like Fuji USA, who is dictated to by Fuji Japan. They're like, yeah, so they weren't happy with something you said about a lens. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I say one thing that is true, and I point out all these other positive things about a camera system that I actually kind of enjoyed using a little bit, but does need to get better. And that's the reason they don't want me doing stuff. See, that's bad business. That's bad business. That's cherry picking your reviewers. And that's why Fuji, when they do like FujiCon or Fujikina or whatever the hell they did in New York recently, they're bringing in only people that lick their balls.
Yeah.
And that's not me. I'm not going to lick your balls unless I get paid. Anything to add to that, Steven?
I mean, we started doing a lot of Fuji reviews, like you're saying, and it was the lens reviews specifically. It was after the XT2, and then we did the XH1 review, and then we did all the dedicated lens reviews along with the Ultimate Fuji Kit video.
We did one of those?
We did one of those. It has 139,000 views on it right now, actually. They all did well. They all have well over 100,000 views. But it was after specifically, again, like you're saying, that 90 millimeter review. That's when they just stopped talking to us. And we would have probably kept up doing Fuji reviews and just reviewing other Fuji products, but they stopped letting us in on the embargoes and the NDA announcements.
And that was it, because people are like, well, you could rent the stuff. I'm like, I could rent the stuff, but then if I have questions or...
Exactly.
So when we work with Canon, Nikon, Sony, the Sigma, Tamron, all these companies, you kind of you have briefings, or you have people that you could talk to directly, that if you have questions, so that you don't just use something and use it wrong because you weren't educated on how to use it.
Yep.
But the stopping giving us NDAs and giving us information when it launches isn't good for us, because when 4, 5, 6 other channels are putting out content because they've had previews of something where they hands-on, it doesn't make any sense for us to, after the fact, come out with a video
later,
right, that's counter to them. We can't do that. So it didn't make sense. So we didn't fight it. Like, what was the point if they're going to knock us down and not have us let us in? We're not going to do it, and I don't care. That's fine, because honestly, for as loud and annoying as the Fuji shooters are, there's not that many of them, so we're not missing out on that much.
And keep in mind, this is right when we started to, or even before when we started to review Sony products, we wouldn't mention them at all. We would just write them off half the time, especially when we would go to these conventions and we wouldn't talk to any of them. But we finally got our hands on a Sony camera and realized it is a great camera, and we kept continuing to do Sony reviews and talk about, now they're included in the big three for us, Nikon, Canon, Sony. And if that relationship would have ended right then and there, if we said something negative about Sony, then we probably to this day would not really be reviewing Sony products. So again, like that could have been Fuji. We could still be reviewing Fuji stuff over the years.
Another case in point is if, for Nikon to come around still and give us access to everything, even though I bashed for years, legitimately bashed. I'll call it legitimate, because they keep coming back because they understand that I was right.
And keep in mind, you initially bashed the Sony products as well.
I remember the first camera that Sony sent me was the A7 II, and man, did that camera suck. Like, the feeling of where the button, like the shutter button, was more up top than in the front on that piece of plastic. The autofocus wasn't quite there yet. It just didn't make sense. But then, of course, as soon as it did make sense, I praised it. The A7 III, it just started to make sense. But they got there. It took time. And, it's interesting. It's been very quiet on the Sony front. Extremely quiet for the last year and a half. And we talk about this often. They need to do something, because if they've only started to develop photography in the last 15-ish years, roughly, and they've only been relevant in the last 7 maybe with quality stuff. But if they're not careful, they could be back into third place again, trying to work their way up. And I say that because after using the A1 this weekend, I shot the A1 again with the 50-400 Tamron, which is a very interesting lens that you'll see in our review we filmed this week when that comes out. That it's a very front-heavy lens.
It is.
It's kind of awkward to hold at times.
Also, cheap lens too.
Inexpensive, you mean?
Inexpensive, yes. Budget friendly.
$12.99.
Not cheap.
Kind of. Not cheap, but budget friendly. It actually feels good in terms of build quality. But I noticed that the A1 just feels like garbage to hold. After using an R3 for the last 8-9 months, almost a year, the R3 just feels better in the hands. It in the A1 just feels more slippery. And it's not just picking on Sony, because Nikon feels very good in the hands. I mean, the
Agreed.
the Z6, the Z7. I think the Z9 still feels a little bricky, but still feels okay.
It's heavy as hell, but it still feels good.
But the R3 feels the best. I think the R6, the R5, Z6, Z5, all the Z cameras feel really good in the hands.
Yeah, Nikon always had their ergonomics down with the mirrorless system.
So is there anything you wanted to talk about with the 50-400?
Well, I just think it's going to be a great lens for pairing with something like Sony A7 IV, that kind of target market. It's amazing this day and age to have that range, 50-400, even though it is a 4.5 to a 6.3, and it's pretty much 6.3 all the way from 135 millimeters or so out to 400. But for someone that wants to photograph their kids running around, or the soccer matches, or whatever it may be, outside in decent light, granted, we're not talking about low light at all, I think it is a good lens for that. But you also now have the Sigma 100-400 that you could also go with that one. So it's like, which one do you choose? And we kind of answer that in the review that'll be coming out soon.
and there's some good stuff in there. There's a lot to say about it. I think the moral of the story is it's not a lens that a pro is going to buy. It's just not a lens for that. It's not a lens where you think you can use it indoors. Right. The target market is a parent or someone who wants to capture pictures of their kids running around
range,
outside.
They don't want to be switching lenses. Yep. Now, this again stems back to that Canon discussion last week where we talked about them not opening up their mount to third-party manufacturers. I think this would be a great lens for pairing with like an RP or on the Z system, like a Z5. This would be such a great lens for these $1,000 entry-level full-frame bodies.
Let's revisit that discussion for a second, because I keep getting comments on YouTube where people are like, oh, another photo news fix where you ignore what Canon did. Is the money truck just that good that you just won't talk about it? And I'm like, first off, we did talk about it in detail on a RAWtalk. I did mention it in Photo News Fix that I feel like they're going to open up their system to the reputable third-party lens manufacturers. I don't think this is a forever thing. I think Canon wanted to get out the glass that they wanted to get out because they know that shitty glass can damage the perception of their cameras. Not physically damage them. In some cases, some of those adapters could brick your camera, but they know that if you take shitty photos because you're using shitty glass, that people are going to reflect that back on the body and think that the camera sucks, because that's just where amateurs go to. So I do face this directly, and you know what? So Canon told them not to infringe on their patent. Okay, maybe they could open it up at some point and allow them to go through the testing process and use their patents if they do it. But I do think we'll see Sigma, Tamron doing third-party glass for the R lineup, and that will be very beneficial to the amateurs out there. But let me really hammer home something. Like, I never owned Sigma glass on any of my systems, except for in the mirrorless world when there were certain Sigma lenses that just were designed for digital for Sony.
You had a good amount of art lenses.
Sense. I did. Well, I had the 35-1.2
which you
art
used a
lens.
lot, yeah.
I used that a ton because on the A7R4 it was fantastic. On the A1 it didn't work as fantastic. It just seemed a little bit off. It just seemed like the focus couldn't work as well. But I did. I had the 14-24 2.8 because at the time Sony only had a 12-24 f4, which had just absolute terrible vignetting, and it wasn't as good. So I took the 12-24 on the road. I even was using the 24-70 2.8 art lens over the version 1 Sony 24-70. Now that the 24-70 version 2 came out, the version 2 is what I would use.
And the 51.4 you even had, which you wouldn't really use that often, but you did have it in the bag.
It was horrible.
Mainly because at the time, I don't think they had a 51.4
it wasn't digital native.
For Sony, right?
It wasn't digital native.
It was the DGDN one?
It wasn't DGDN. It was just the
art.
It was
mirrorless.
it was bad. Focus was like 50%. It would just miss. It wasn't good. So I didn't ever use that one. But the 24-1.4, it kind of brings up the whole Canon leaking 4 Pro lenses right now.
Before you move on to that, I still think if they're going to open it up to just Tamron and Sigma, they're going to open it up to everybody. I don't think it's going to be picking and choosing which third-party manufacturer because, again, like I said last week, they could still make shitty lenses. Like Sigma still makes shitty low-end lenses, and so does Tamron. So does every lens manufacturer. They still make low-end lenses.
No, and I think right now Canon just wants to protect what they've built. And yes, they make more money when they sell their own glass. Also, I keep seeing comments that they're like, oh, Canons are they've priced themselves out of the market. And I really wanted to comment back to I did comment back, but I wanted to comment back to them and be like, maybe it's you. And this isn't a knock, but maybe just because you can't afford certain things doesn't mean that that's like $2,600 for an R6. Do I wish it was $2,000 like when the A7 III came out? The answer is yes, but $2,000 still may be out of somebody else's price range, and then you also need to buy glass. So I don't think Canon has overpriced anything.
And they still have plenty of the lower end full frame lenses. Like their 50-1.8 is $160. Their 35-1.8 I think is like $450 or $499.
They have 3 or 4 versions of the 24-105.
And you've got the 600 f11, the 800 f11. They're all under $1,000. I mean, there's still a lot of lower end lenses you could purchase for a Canon full frame camera.
And there's still a lot of high-end EF lenses that you can buy for your for your Canon cameras with an adapter that works seamlessly and work great. I've highly recommend that to people who can't afford to get RF glass right now. You can adapt Sigma lenses. We showed that in a video years ago when the R6 came out, that the 70 to 200 Sigma adapted perfectly fine.
Now, I do wish they focused more on the Pro line, which it looks like they are now with these 4 new lenses that just got leaked, because I do feel like they hit it out of the park the first year or two, and then they kind of slowly stopped making the higher end lenses. Like, I'm still waiting for that holy F2 Trinity that I hope comes out one day, because that's going to be amazing.
I hope that does. So the 4 lenses, there's actually a 5th one we'll talk about.
Oh.
The 4 lenses, the 12 to, well, it's not a 12 to anything. It's a 12 millimeter 1.8. It's
that is
then there's
wide.
That is wide, and then there's a 24 1.4, a 35 1.2, which I absolutely would love, and what was the 4th one?
And a 28.
See, I don't even think about the 28 1.4.
It should be one or the other. You shouldn't be doing a 24 and a 28. Why?
I posed the question on Photo News Fix for people to say, why would you choose a 24 over a 28, or why would you choose a 28 at all? And some of it was, for video, it's a good lens, or that the 24 gives you a better look, and the 24 does give you a look. When you have a 1.4 lens or a 1.2 lens, that's why I use the 28 to 70 f2. So I don't like having just a prime 24 1.4 because it's not as versatile in running and gunning. Now, if I'm in a situation where I have more time, then I'll take primes all day long, but I'm not sure that I want a 12 1.8. But I mean, I would use it. I would use it, but I'd rather have an 11 to 24 f, a 2.8 or a 12 to 20. I'll take a 12 to 20 f2.
Yeah, I mean, I would personally rather have a fast wide-angle zoom, like you're saying, a 12 to 20 f2. Even a 2.8, I don't really care when it's that wide. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, I get for Astro, more light and everything, if you're doing a 12 1.8. But having a fixed wide-angle lens that wide is tough. Again, I'd rather have even remake the 11 to 24. Give me an f4. That's fine. I mean, you should be able to do probably a 10 to 24 at this point with now the extra, flange distance.
Let me read a comment from John Armwood on YouTube. This was a very disappointing comment. It had something to do with these new lenses. His comment was, obviously, you are not a good student. You are, well, there's no comma. There should be a comma there, asshole. Honestly, obviously, you are not a good student. You are not good at math, and you do not appreciate astrophotography. Basically, what I said in the fix, I believe, was that yes, there's a 12 millimeter just for astrophotography, but how many fucking pictures of the sky do you need where you just point the camera up into the sky, take a picture, and call it a day? Like, it's so overdone after a while. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. But,
I mean, if that's your niche that you I
sure,
get it, but
again, just shooting limiting. Wide and capturing everything all the time gets a little old. It's like using a fisheye all the time. So he keeps going, don't tell me it's because you grew up in Philadelphia and you could not see the sky. I grew up in New York City and have always loved the sky, and the first thing I ever wanted to do was be an astronomer. And yes, I own a 14-2.8 Rokinon EF, which I adapted on my EOS R only for astrophotography. I would love an RF 12 millimeter. Please learn to see your own intellectual limits, which judging areas of photography for which you have no vision or interest. Wow. Fuck you, John. And I was like, John, what the actual F? Because I don't like cursing on YouTube on YouTube because it doesn't like when it will block
okay.
fuck. What are you getting on about? You start to comment off by attacking my education, of which you know nothing about. I said, what if I had a learning disability? What if I had trouble seeing in school and had trouble reading? Some of those things are true, but I think I've done all right for myself. And I'm like, come on, dude. Now, the learning disability thing, I guarantee you that I had a learning disability or still have a learning disability. But when I was ADHD. In school, in the 90s, I graduated high school in 99. That was around the time they started riddling some of the problem kids, giving them Ritalin and stuff, and ADHD started to be a thing. I never went through any of that, thankfully, back in the day, but my learning issues stemmed from having bad eyes. I couldn't see the words on the page, or it would take me forever to read because I couldn't comprehend what I was reading, and my eyes would shake.
And I truly think you have some form of dyslexia too, where you will flip words around or whatever.
I do think I have. I do think I have some form of dyslexia, and I also do feel that I reverse 4s and 5s. So when it comes to numbers, I have sometimes issues. And yeah, when I'm reading things, I've said it before, where my brain will read do as in don't or will as in won't, or finish the sentence, and I read the whole thing. I literally went right over it, and my brain computed it a different way. So yeah, I'm probably dyslexic. I probably have a learning disorder, and I probably had it back then.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing too. Do you ever see those paragraphs where they all the words are spelled wrong, but somehow your brain just fills in the blanks and you can read it properly? It's like trying to read a text message from you.
Yeah, thank you. But for an adult like this guy, at least based off of his photo and his thumbnail, for an adult, maybe in his 50s, maybe 60s, to be like, obviously you are not a good student.
To question someone's intelligence, I mean, that's a little out of line.
It is, and just because you're like, would you say that to me in person?
Yeah.
Would you come up to me?
I don't know about him, but
would you come up to me and be like, yeah, maybe you weren't educated properly? I was like, dude, they put me in remedial reading. Do you know how bad it felt to be in remedial reading? Do you want to know why I felt bad to be in remedial reading? Because the kids that were in remedial reading belonged in remedial reading, and I didn't. I absolutely did not belong in there with those kids. And that's not a knock on those kids who had actual learning issues. I just didn't belong in those classes. I knew I didn't belong. But back then, and this isn't like when back then, this is like, in the middle 90s, it was not like the 50s where you got thrown in and sent somewhere even if you didn't have a learning disability because they thought you were slow or small or something.
Yeah.
But here, I know I didn't belong in those damn classes. But yeah, reading was always a thing, and it's like no one adapted to that. No one was like, you know what, we'll photocopy the text and make it enlarge it for you. It was obviously harder to do. It wasn't like we had the computers to just hit Control A, Control V, Control C
or your iPhone having all these accessibility features now,
right,
where you can bold the text or make it larger, whatever.
So I even took a test the other day to see if I was autistic, an online test to see autistic. And I think everybody has a form of it. So maybe this test, everybody's going to have a form. But I actually finished on the scale of like, yeah, you're like on the scale moderately.
On the spectrum.
On the spectrum of some sort. And yeah, I'm sure I am. There's certain things I answered these questions like, oh, dude, that's totally me. And then other times I'm like, no, I can be in loud spaces. I don't like the noises, but I don't need to wear headphones like some of those kids who wear headphones because they're really sensitive to noise. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there. Let's get back to the lenses. The fifth lens is a 135-1.8 that we hope is coming.
Yes.
Because that will totally, that would be really nice to have.
I thought it was originally rumored to be a 135-1.4. Although that's probably going to be a massive lens. If
or
it's
a 200 f2 or whatever.
Yeah, we discussed that last week, yeah.
I'll totally take it, dude.
And back to the astrophotography thing, I took it as when you were talking in Photo News Fix that basically you're not one that's not your thing, astrophotography. Like, yes, you can see people picking it up for that, but for you, like how many times can you take a picture of the stars? Where, again,
that's
astrophotographers, they're going to be all about it and that's all they do. But for you, I just think you're going to take one or two and call it a day.
You got to be creative, though. You're not going to just use that one lens. You're going to start to use other lenses. So anyway, I get it. I get that lens would be good for astro. Probably be good for video, too, because it's 12 millimeters and it's going to be sharp and you can leave it wide open and capture a scene. So there's rhymes and reasons why they do stuff. I still don't get the 28 millimeter. Personally, I'd rather have a 35.
Well,
I'd rather have the 35-1 too.
24 or 28. I don't think they should have wasted their time making two different lenses that are so close in focal length.
That is correct.
Is it Sony that has the 14-1.8? I think that's the other closest kind of lens to that 12-1.8 lens. And how many times have we used that? Do we even have it?
Do we have it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I know we reviewed it.
Jinx.
But I don't think you ever requested it because, again, it's just something that you would really never use.
Even
when you were shooting solely with the A1.
Right. It's nice. Like, it's a really nice lens.
It's just limiting. That's all.
Yeah, I don't need it. So there's always a give and take depending on your situation and what you like to photograph. It all is dependent on what you do.
And there's obviously a big enough target market out there for them to be making these specialty lenses. Right. Although I still think a 135-1.8 is a lens that more people would pick up personally. But I don't know. Maybe
I picked that up over...
That's just because I'd rather shoot like a portrait,
Well, I picked that up over an 85. So
personally,
if I had the choice of an 85 or a 135, I'm taking the 85 and I'll keep a 51.2 in the bag. Shit, I still own a 51.2. I bought that lens for Sony.
You bought a 51.2 from Sony?
I did.
Oh.
I did. I got press pricing on it, which was nice. I bought it, so I have that. I bought the Tamron 35 to 150 and haven't touched it because I started using Canon.
I mean, you still have some of your really old Nikon DSLR glass too, like the 300 f4, the 105, right? 1.4.
I have the
That's
105
a great
macro.
focal length. 105, kind of get that in between of an 85 and 135.
Yeah, so if Canon did the 105 1.4,
and
I would do that.
Chode of a lens too.
It is. So you know what? I think it's time I get rid of those lenses. I
agree.
We thought that we would adapt them. We had the hope that we would adapt them to
selling all my Nikon gear again.
Again, we thought that we would be able to adapt the lenses with Nikon better than what it ended up being.
Yeah.
If you're a portrait shooter like Dixie Dixon and you're in the studio or your setup situations all the time, the 105 is going to be fine.
Well, shooting more static subjects, yeah.
Yeah. And we used it with the Z9 review, and it was okay for the portrait. In some cases,
it still gave you some issues.
It did give me some issues. Speaking of issues, am I going to make you dizzy if I move around and this new camera, my new webcam is following and tracking me?
It's weird. If people can't see this, but basically as Jared moves in his chair, the webcam literally moves around and follows his every move. It's not
zooming. I turned off the zooming feature.
But it does have a zooming feature where if you're backing up or moving forward, it will literally lock your head in and zoom to make sure your head is a certain size in the frame, right?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, Insta360, this is not a plug, though they do advertise and sponsor with us for other things. We weren't saying like, let's talk about this on RAWtalk so we get paid.
No.
Because we don't get paid for this one. But a couple months ago, they came out with this webcam link, and they didn't actually contact us to make a video about it. I saw everybody else had a video about it.
And we wanted to make a video about it because it's such a cool webcam.
I'm like, this thing is cool.
Yeah.
So it's been here for a couple of weeks because we've been testing out the
360.
360 X3, and I didn't want to touch this webcam. But yesterday I was just sitting here, and I took it out of the box, I plugged it in, and I was like, oh my God. One, the quality looks so much better than the ViewSonic or whatever the hell one I've been using for years.
Was that a 4K or a 1080p sensor?
I think mine was a 4K, but this has a 1/2-inch sensor, or as DP Review would say, type kiss my ass.
Type 1/2.
Is that what it means? What's the difference between 1/2-inch and type?
They replaced saying inch with type for some reason because that makes so much more sense. Yeah,
it makes no sense. Just makes no sense. But there's a 1-inch sensor in this thing. Sorry, a 1/2-inch sensor in this thing. But what was cool about it is that I would hold up my hand to unlock the tracking feature, and it would follow me around the room.
So it reacts to gestures, right?
Right, it reacts to gestures. So all I needed to do is hold my palm up to the camera, and it would blink. So the color right now is green.
Okay.
It's green right now because that means that it's actually it's using it. When it blinks, it will blink blue to let me know that it sees my hand, and then it activates or deactivates. So if I don't want it following me around, because I like to move, ADHD that wasn't diagnosed, I like to move around, it will track me and follow me for my Zoom calls. So that's cool.
It is a little much sometimes, though, I will say. Like when we were doing the initial Zoom call, Zoom the program, not the actual zooming of the lens, it was freaking me out because I was almost getting dizzy because you were constantly moving. But it was zooming. It was zooming and moving on top of that, so it was a little much.
I turned off the zoom feature, but I will say it's a $300
but it is cool.
Device.
Don't get me wrong.
But for $300, you're going to think about it whether that works for you. If you're someone who sits in front of your computer and is on Zooms all day, or you have a whiteboard because it has that feature where you can have it zoom in on the whiteboard automatically because it has AI built in, this might be something for you. It's now officially replacing the old USB webcam that I had that I bought again during the pandemic because I have two. I have one at home and I have one here, but this is just better looking, better quality, Papa John's.
I'm surprised it took this long for a webcam with this zooming capability and tracking capability to come out. I mean, if they would have launched this at the beginning of the pandemic, it would have been the biggest selling
Well, it would have sold
ever,
out and they wouldn't have been able to produce enough of them.
That's true, yeah.
That's the whole thing. Can we get to this news story? What should we do? Should we do the Jew news story or the paparazzi news story first?
Whatever one you want.
I want to just hear you say Jew.
Nope, not saying it.
So let's go to the Jewish story. The article is photo shoot. This is reading from Petapixel. It's also posted on many other places. Photo shoot at Holocaust Memorial condemned by Jewish community. Wait, are you allowed to write this article if you're not Jewish? Isn't that the new way that you can't talk about something unless you're gay? Like if you're gay, like if you're not gay, you can't be a gay actor, or you can't be an actor that portrays a gay artist.
I mean, I'm really pissed that they have actors that aren't actually serial killers playing a serial killer. I mean, what? That's crazy.
Exactly. It's called acting
for a reason.
Actor.
Apparently they got mad at Brendan Fraser for playing a fat man with a fat suit for The Whale. I don't know if you heard about that. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I come back to John Leguizamo being upset that he wasn't cast as Fidel Castro, and that Franco was, but Franco isn't Cuban, but either is John Leguizamo, but John Leguizamo also isn't an Italian plumber, so he shouldn't have been in Mario Brothers the movie, which was a absolute terrible movie. Anyway, yes, Tom Hanks said that if the role for Philadelphia came up, well, yes, he probably couldn't play Forrest Gump either.
Forrest Gump would definitely be a no-go.
You know, Corky Thatcher was very much fit the role that he played. Do you remember Corky Thatcher?
No.
That's before your time. There was a show called Family Life Goes On.
Okay.
Oobla-dee, oobla-da, Life Goes On, that we would watch as a family. There was Becca. So Corky would call her Becca. I can't do it anymore. I used to say it back in school in the days when it wasn't frowned upon, but shouldn't have been acceptable. It shouldn't have been acceptable, but it was funny. It really shouldn't have been. But we didn't know, and we evolve and grow. But Corky was played by a kid with Down syndrome. And so it was an actual person with Down syndrome, so that fit the role. But Tom Hanks saying that he couldn't play the character in Philadelphia anymore because he's not gay is actually kind of wrong. That's not right. It's called acting for a reason.
Yeah.
If you can play a character, you're acting, you're portraying. That's what acting is.
Literally,
it's not real life.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, speaking of Jewish people, let's see. There's a Jewish community in Ottawa. Okay, members of the Jewish community in Ottawa say they are angry after the National Holocaust Monument was used as a backdrop for photos and videos. I'm going to keep reading this for you. This is directly from Petapixel. I am citing my source. Not that they would ever post us on Petapixel, which they didn't post our News 9 article. They'll post some bullshit, but I didn't even want to talk about this, but they'll post some bullshit that has nothing to do with photography, but just because it says like, photos of video games are now going to get a gallery.
I mean,
cool.
Do you think them not posting anything from Frono's Photo has anything to do with us ranting about them all the time on this podcast?
Oh, it's personal, Steven.
It definitely is.
It's personal. We have a personal beef, and we will keep having that personal beef, and I can't wait to see that person again in person if we ever see them again. Oh, maybe we'll see them.
I'm sure it's going to happen soon.
Yeah. I'm like, what up, dude?
Yep.
Anyway, a local clothing company, V. Kente, faced criticism after it posted a video featuring a model wearing a swimsuit from the company's collection. Quote, to know that this place has been desecrated, that their memory has been desecrated, and that a place of somber reflection and education was used in a fashion shoot, not for the first time, is incredibly frustrating and disheartening, says Andrea Friedman, president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa.
Hey,
what are you talking
Jewish?
about, buddy? What are you think? I'm a Jewish Canadian, eh? Get out of here, you bad people. The concrete monument was unveiled in 2017 and commemorates the 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis during the Second World War. The reflective monument, designed by Studio Libeskind Architects, is noted for its beautiful aesthetic and is laid out in an abstract version of the Star of David. Okay, so when we were in Germany, when we went to, was it Berlin? It wasn't Berlin. It was Berlin.
I think it was Berlin, the Holocaust
testing out the
museum
iPhone,
there, or the monument.
iPhone 7?
I think it might have been the 7. It was when
Max?
Portrait mode first came out.
iPhone 7 Max. So there's a monument there. There's like this big sprawling, there's these monoliths, and they change in height. It's like a maze, and you go through it. And there's people
really
taking
artistic.
selfies. It is. There's people taking selfies, and the security people would come around and you don't play here.
Yeah.
You don't joke around here.
Yeah.
You don't. Now, I was taking pictures, but I was being respectful of the whole thing. But that was that place. The space
forgot
is
that
public.
we actually did a review there. We filmed there.
We did. Todd was with us.
Todd was, yeah.
We were going to Photokina.
Mm-hmm.
Milsh, this space, it says the space is public with no rules in place surrounding photography and videography, but Friedman says that more needs to be done to educate people about the Holocaust. So the videos and pictures are terrible anyway that the person did.
I'm looking at one right now. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. The CBC contacted V. Kente, who offered an apology over its swimsuit promotional video. It has come to, and this is a quote from this person, it has come to our attention that V. Kente has offended the Jewish and Ottawa community. That is worded so weird. That is so weird. Wrote co-founder Phoebe Genius in an email statement, quote, from a creative perspective, the artistry of the memorial seemed to be a perfect fit for what my team and I were looking for aesthetically for that particular campaign. What? Your aesthetic campaign is 6 million Jews died and you should wear our swimsuit?
Oh, geez.
She wrote, she didn't say that. She said, quote, I erred, E-R-R-E-D. It's err on the side of caution, but not erred. Anyway, sorry, I must have been a terrible student in English. Now, I was a terrible student in English. I didn't know what a past participle is. I still don't know, or a present participle. I didn't know how to conjugate a verb, a noun, an adjective. There's just certain things my brain doesn't compute, and English class was one of them. I sat there twiddling my thumb. Like, they'd be like, come up to the front of the class and underline the predicate. I'm like, what the fuck's a predicate? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I know how to speak, but I can't write this shit. I urge to consider any political or emotional implications this decision could have caused. I offer my deepest apologies and regret making this decision, and I apologize to the Jews. She didn't say that. I made an honest and immature mistake as a new business owner. Now, where I take umbrage, good word, with what she just wrote was the last part. I made a mistake as a new business owner. No. You made a mistake, so you just apologized for your mistake. Why are you saying that because you're a new business owner? You're now downplaying your mistake by saying that, well, it's because I'm new, I fucked up. Now, the videos now have been removed from her website and social media platforms, but the company is not the first to use the monument as a backdrop, with several photographers spotted at the site. Judy Young, an Ottawa resident and Holocaust survivor, which she must be in her late 80s, if not 90s, says she doesn't want people to be punished, but believes there should be more information available to the public. That's the biggest point here. The point isn't that they did a photo shoot there. The point is that they may have not understood or ever have learned or been involved with understanding the Holocaust. That is happening more and more. As time goes by, history keeps going. There's people that deny the fact that the Holocaust was the actual thing, but the further it goes, and the fight against history in schools is taking place in our country right now. And I don't know Canada because I never, I haven't gone to school in Canada, but we know that they're not teaching certain things because it might offend a student, right? It might make them feel like that their white ancestors who owned slaves were wrong, and that might make them feel bad. When that, or you were German and you learn about the Holocaust, so now you're all of a sudden offended or upset that happened. Well, you should be upset that it happened, but you weren't alive. You are supposed to learn from this stuff. You don't sweep it under the rug. You don't sit there and go, we can't talk about slavery. We can't talk about the Holocaust. We can't talk about black, white, Asian, Latino, anything. That's bullshit. That's what school's about, education. And that's that whole issue with the whole critical race theory, which again, I don't know what quotations did for my, I don't know what quotations did to my webcam, but it did something. Stop. Webcam, or maybe it's reporting me to the master class. Failed to enter whiteboard mode. That's what it actually did. I didn't mean it. So if you put up quote unquote, it thought it was whiteboard mode. I thought maybe I was getting reported to the Trump administration. The camera was reporting back to China or something. Basically, the whole critical race theory was just a bad marketing title. It should just be called history. We're discussing the history of our people, all people, so that people understand and know. That's what's going on here, is that, they made a mistake. They photographed at this thing, make a mistake, learn from the mistake.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't think they should get in trouble. I just think they need to be educated. And it's a chance to educate people. Use it as a chance to educate people. But, the whole canceling someone for making a mistake, I actually think has pared down a little bit because I think it's gone overboard.
I
agree. And people started to realize like, well, geez, when do you let someone out of this penalty box? In hockey, Canada should know this, you get a 2-minute penalty. This is a 2-minute penalty. Maybe it's a double minor for stupidity, right? One for stupidity and one for just ignorance, and you sit in the penalty box, then you come out of the penalty box and you learn from your mistake. And so that's my take on this whole thing is you shouldn't be doing photo shoots at the monument. I don't think you should be doing photo shoots in the cemetery, right? I don't think you should be going to the cemetery and sitting on someone's grave and doing a photo shoot because you think it's fine fucking art. It's garbage.
Agreed. Certain places are definitely off limits.
Right, but you see people do it all the time. They always go to these places, and we did it, right? Canon took us in
the
New Orleans to the mausoleums.
Yeah,
and we
New
use
Orleans.
that with the RP.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's more of a celebration of life in New Orleans is what they do. Death is a celebration of life or whatever. They celebrate it, but I still think it's a little odd to be going to cemeteries to do photo shoots. So that's that story, Stephen. And the other story I wanted to talk about was Miley Cyrus was sued by paparazzi for sharing photos without permission. I'm so tired of hearing about this. I don't care if she shared a photo online. I really don't care. But it turns out that, let's read this article again. In the lawsuit which was filed, this is coming from, we use Petapixel quite a bit because they're a good news aggregator, meaning this isn't an original story. They just take it from elsewhere usually and report on it, and it's just easier for me to sit here and read it. In the lawsuit, which was filed on Friday, paparazzi photographer Robert Barbera alleges that he took a photo of Cyrus waving to onlookers as she exited a building in February of 2020. Shortly afterward, New York-based photographer Barbera claims that Cyrus posted his photo to her Instagram profile, which boasts 181 followers with 181 million followers without his permission. But look, Instagram has killed photography, so she would only get like 12 likes anyway.
Actually, correction, she has 1 million likes on that photo.
Okay, that's good. But do you want to take this first and give you time to speak, or do you want me to keep going in about paparazzi?
In terms of the actual photo, if someone takes a photo of you, you should also have permission to post it if you are the subject of that photo. I don't understand this paparazzi mentality of it's my photo, I own the rights, even though it would never exist if you didn't exist. It just makes no sense to me.
I completely agree in this situation. I think paparazzis are reprehensible people. Yes, I think paparazzis
I've dealt with them in the
assholes.
past, and all of them, at least the ones that I've met, are dickheads.
Well, I've got a friend, Jeff Kravitz, who made his living. He had a thing called Film Magic that he sold to Getty because I think he did really well selling that. But Jeff is the guy that's on the red carpet all the time. He's not so much the paparazzi that's going to be hanging out and chasing someone around. Now, he may have done that in the past.
Paparazzi, yeah.
Right. He's the one that the celebrities actually will come up to and invite him to do photo shoots, to come to places to capture images. One, because they know that he's Getty Images. And two, they know that he will do exactly what they need, and he's a respectful person. It's the Edgars of the world inside inside baseball for you guys. Stephen and I used to shoot places with a lot of photographers, and there was one that
was more of a paparazzo versus an actual photojournalist or whatever else you want to call him.
He was absolutely, and we came up with a keyword name. We call him Edgar.
I think that's because we thought that's what his name was.
Oh, maybe he looked like Edgar.
But it's not his
Edgar.
name.
I don't think it's his name.
No,
I don't even know his real name.
I do.
But this guy would be everywhere and anywhere taking photos, and he would have his assistant upload stuff right away, like instantly, because all he cared about was getting the shit out into the world super duper fast, because if he did first, he would get paid. Now, I ran into him a couple months back, and I just didn't even want to talk to him. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Oh, it's covering this protest. And I'm looking, and he's wearing a police body camera, because I guarantee you that he's waiting for something to happen that he could totally sue or sell about.
For sure.
I hate paparazzis. I hate paparazzis.
He's looking for trouble.
I hate the fact that they go around stealing people's images the way they do, and then claiming that it's theirs to do whatever they want with. And if someone does something with the image, that it's all of a sudden a problem. What Stephen just said was, wait, if you wouldn't have an image if you didn't have me. So it's kind of a trade-off. I have access to the pictures. It's bullshit. It's bullshit that he's suing this person, that he's suing her. He's done it before. The photograph was copied, stored, and displayed without license or permission, thereby infringing on plaintiff's copyright, Barbera alleges in court documents which were viewed by Law 360. Fuck you, Barbera. Fuck you, dude. Like, seriously. Oh, they infringed. They were stored and displayed without license. Did you ask permission to take their photos? Exactly. And don't give me, they're a public figure.
Exactly.
They're in public. Oh, they're in public. They're a public figure. Yeah.
You basically have no privacy if you are considered a public figure. Exactly. That's the thing. It's just being disrespectful.
Right.
Now, granted, if you are a paparazzo, you have to be disrespectful to play the game. I hate to say it. You really do, for the most part. If you ever see Teenage Paparazzo? It was like an HBO mini documentary
where they followed that kid around.
Yeah, it was a 13-year-old paparazzo.
I hated that kid too,
and he ended up pretty much hating himself by the end. He ended up stopped doing the paparazzi stuff because he felt like he was becoming a worse person. You know, a terrible person.
It's not photography. It's not photography. You press a button and steal someone's image, trying to make a shit ton of money off of it. The new rule should be that if you make money off of it and a celebrity is in it, they get a percentage of the shot. They get a percentage of it. And then you're going to get the people be like, well, sometimes the paparazzi's tipped off by the actual people. Well, fuck celebrity lifestyle and the people like the Kardashians who are tipping them off. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I took it upon myself to go ahead and comment on this guy's pictures. I decided to be a troll because sometimes I'm an asshole. And let's see if my comment is still here. Let's see. Is my comment still here? Or did anybody reply to it? So basically what I wrote on to this is like, this isn't photography. I'm like, this isn't photography. This is stealing someone's picture, basically, is what I wrote. I don't remember. Oh, I know I did it on the Charlie D'Amelio picture that he posted. We need more Charlie NYC content. And it's like, well, no, you're just stealing her picture. They're not good pictures. She just left a place and she looks awkward because she's like, why are you taking my picture? Right.
I never understood the purpose of like taking a picture of someone walking out of a restaurant. Now, I guess,
do you know why?
If there's a celebrity couple or someone, is rumored to be dating somebody, that's kind of proof. But besides that, it's just like, why? To make them look bad? Hope that they're going to get a bad shot?
It's about the clothes. It's about the clothes they're wearing.
Really?
They want to share, like, this is what they wore. And that's why sometimes a celebrity might be getting paid by a watch company or something, or the clothes company. So that's how they continue to get free clothes.
But how much money do you think they're making off the news outlets for buying a photo of someone wearing a watch or whatever?
That I don't know. But it looks like they deleted my comment.
I wonder why.
No, fuck them. I mean, they have the right to delete the comment, but I was just like, this isn't photography. You shouldn't be doing this. This is not real. Like, you're not a real photographer. Go sue someone. Like, their whole game is I'll make more money suing than I will any other way than actually being a photographer.
Any way to make a buck.
That's my take on paparazzi. I absolutely despise paparazzis. I really do. I don't care what anybody says. If you chase around a celebrity trying to steal their images on the street and be an asshole and a nuisance and then turn around and sell that because you're going to get money, you're profiting off of them. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to post your fucking image.
Exactly.
Because you stole theirs. Fuck you. They have rights to doing it.
And talking about...
I know there's copyright laws, Steven. I get it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And back to Edgar, our paparazzo friend. I mean, he was so disrespectful that he ended up getting banned from most of the events that we went to. I know several different places that banned him because of how disrespectful he was. He would jump in front of other photographers too, right before the person came out, and ruin everybody's shot except his. He would do whatever it takes to get the photo, even if it was being a total dickhead.
He would get in the way all the time.
All the time.
So there's a couple of comments that people left, but like one of them basically says, well, musicians are notorious for suing people for using their music, so why should they be able to take these photos? Music's a little different.
Totally different.
It's a little different. Like, that's stealing someone's music and profiting a shit ton off of it. It's different.
That's something they created from scratch, though.
Well, but then they're going to say, well, this photo was created from scratch.
Yeah.
Right. So there's nuances to this whole thing. There's always
but I take it different. Like if you're painting a celebrity as they walk out, you're creating a painting of them. That's much different than taking a snapshot, in my opinion.
So you get these stupid comments.
That's art versus just trying to sell a photograph.
Exactly. You get these comments like, these celebrities profit from their presence on social media either directly or indirectly. Maybe I can add one of Miss Cyrus's tracks on my Facebook post because, it's just social media. Well, you can. I hate paparazzis is really the moral of the story, and probably the title of this podcast is probably going to be I hate paparazzis. So, Stephen, anything else to add? Because we've got a Zoom call coming up that we've got to get to at noon.
No, I think that's it. We'll save some more stuff for next week's RAWtalk.
Oh, we got some things. I got some ranty things that I would have ranted on if this was the Daily Fro. I would have gone to town on the city of Philadelphia in a nice long rant. But anyway, 313-710-9729. Let me know what you think. But also, here's what you could do when we put out new YouTube videos. And if you're a RAWtalk listener, go ahead and hashtag in a comment so that we know that you listen to these, if you got this far. Hashtag on the latest videos when they come out, like hashtag RAWtalk listener. Like, I want to see that. Like, it just let us know that you're paying attention. Not that you're paying attention, but that you guys actually enjoy it. So I'd love to see that. You could leave the comments on YouTube, but you could also leave a review on the iTunes, which we usually do that at the beginning of the show. But Steven, you got a couple of those here?
Yes. Speaking of reviews, we do have a couple new ones in, and I apologize if I miss you, but based on what I'm seeing right now, it looks like we have 4 new ones. One from DKnight427. It says, perfect, no notes. And then the comment is, I said no notes. Well, thank you very much, D-Knight. Argonzalachio. I think that's how you say it. Great and informative. Less Jared, more Steven and Vanessa. All in all, highlight of my Friday morning commute. Thank you.
Fuck you.
We've got one from Lollapalooza. Not spelled the same way as the festival, though. It says, my favorite weekly listen. I enjoy photography and videography, and there is a solid mix of those topics and great day-to-day life banter. Jared and Steven are a perfect pair. Thank you very much, Lollapalooza. And OnlyPans84. Can't believe I didn't find this earlier. They say, I've been following the YouTube channel for some time and can't get enough of it and found this podcast. I spend 10 plus hours a week driving and can't wait to dig into the existing episodes. Keep up the amazing content! !
Nice. I mean, that's the whole point. And we've been promoting it. We try to find ways to promote properly. And I think RAWtalk, sorry, I always say it, Photo News Fix was a great place to add a little plug at the end of a story. Like, oh, we'll be diving in deeper on this week's this RAWtalk every Friday. Tune in. And that's how we've been able to grow. And I think this week or last week's episode should be over 6,000 downloads in the first week, which is good.
Yep.
We'd like to get to 10,000. To put it into perspective, when I didn't know that 15,000 was a good amount of audio downloads back in the day, RAWtalk used to get more back in the day when we started. I just didn't know. I didn't have anything to compare it to know that 15,000 was actually 20,000 was actually an unbelievable amount of listens for a podcast. We're going to wrap it up right there, Steven. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. I said it last. Go away, Steven.